Colt Cabana has only been on AEW Dynamite once since All Out. But wait, I thought that was all CM Punk keeping him off TV. Hey, it's Chris Graham here talking some AEW wrestling news. And I was scanning around the internet earlier today and came across an interesting Q&A on PW Insider, Dave Shearer, and credit to Dave for taking the question and then answering quickly the question. It was a question from a reader who said, if CM Punk's still the person behind keeping Colt Cabana off AEW TV, why has Colt Cabana not been on TV just except for that one time, basically, since September? Shearer's response was actually interesting, and we'll get into it more in a few minutes. AEW, he said, has had the unintended effect of opening up people's eyes on who are credible reporters and who aren't. So where that all comes from, the only match that Colt Cabana's had since CM Punk ostensibly left the company. We're still not all sure what's going on behind the scenes. There's talk about CM Punk wanting out, Tony Khan not wanting to pay him to leave. We know that Punk, at least we think that Punk really did injure his triceps in the title match, the title win over Jon Moxley at All Out, which of course was before the media scrum where he laid out a lot of things about this Colt Cabana situation. But that was 13 weeks ago. And we don't know anything really what's going on behind the scenes there. We know that in that media scrum where he talked about how it was basically BS, he used lots more colorful language than that to describe the story that had been fed to numerous wrestling news, quote unquote, journalists for months, that it was him who was keeping Colt Cabana, his former best friend, who they had a major falling out after they were sued by WWE for comments that Punk made on Cabana's podcast a few years ago about why he left WWE. He wasn't behind it, and it was BS for people to say that he was, and that it was BS for reporters to just take the word of people who were spreading partial truths or whatever partial percentage you might get there to advance their own agenda. Okay. So that's what led to then after he had, those he had a lengthy diatribe about this at the All Out post-event media scrum. And then we kind of know what happened there. At least we're told what happened there was that the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega confronted him in the locker room afterwards. There was a fight, and that led to all of the parties to the situation being suspended for several weeks, couple months, actually. The Elite finally came back at the Full Gear pay-per-view, which was just a couple weeks ago. So 2.5 months or so. Punk is still not back, but again, if he is injured, a torn triceps could take 6 to 9 months to recover from. So, okay. All that backstory now told. Cabana himself said that the one match he's had since All Out, which was November 2nd on Dynamite against Chris Jericho for the Ring of Honor title, he said he was told when he was booked for that he'd been told Jericho requested him. So that would seem to confirm that, a lot of folks who saw that Colt Cabana was wrestling against Chris Jericho on that show was an obvious dig at CM Punk at a stage when it seemed like the investigation, such as it was wrapping up. It was a dig. Jericho digging at CM Punk, that they were known to be backstage rivals of sorts. Cabana said, I'm under contract. They tell me to show up. I showed up. They tell me who I'm wrestling. I wrestle. If they want me to wrestle again, I'll wrestle again. If they want me to agent again, I'll agent again. Whatever. He has not worked a lot, and I'll go into detail on that. That match with Jericho was just his fourth for AEW since way back in March. 3 of them were part of an AEW presentation at a gaming convention. They weren't televised matches. And that match with Jericho on November 2nd was his first on Dynamite in nearly a year. He had wrestled his last match on Dynamite before November 2nd of this year was way back last year on the Thanksgiving Dynamite, the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving Dynamite. Now, when you think about that, okay, so that would seem to go in line with what whoever it was, and we can speculate who it was, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Adam Page, some of those involved, or at least folks very close to them, who planted stories in what passes for the wrestling media, casting the blame for Cabana not seeing the light of day on Punk, because, hey, a lot of that time from between Novembers, a lot of that time did involve CM Punk. For 10 months of that, CM Punk was certainly a top star, top money draw for the company. And if he had been inclined, I'm gonna throw that out there. If he'd been inclined to throw his weight around, he could have done so and said, "I don't want Colt Cabana on the shows." But a look at the data tells an interesting story too. I had to look it up. Colt Cabana signed, at least, I don't know when he signed. He made his first appearance with AEW on March 1st, 2020. That's a couple weeks before the pandemic. At least the pandemic having the effect here in the U.S. Boy, that's interesting to even think about that. Between March 4th, when he made his first appearance on Dynamite of 2020, March 4th, 2020, and January 20 of 2021, this is the golden age for Colt Cabana in terms of his appearances on Dynamite. 13 times in those 46 weeks. He's had a total of 17 appearances on Dynamite. So he's had 4 since January 20 of 2021. And he had 3 pay-per-view appearances in 2021 and 2022. A couple of battle royals that he was briefly in, and also an 8-man tag match. The 16-man tag match I'm thinking about is a Dynamite he worked in 2021. So when he was used after that relative speed of activity in his first 46 weeks, 13 times, when he was used thereafter, it was either mostly the Dark and Dark Elevation, the AEW YouTube shows, or multi-man tag matches. When I say multi, I mean not 6-man, 8-man, and 10-man and 16-man matches. And then, other than that, he did his Thanksgiving match last year was with Bryan Danielson, a singles match. So, hey, he got a singles match, and that's a pretty good singles match with Bryan Danielson on November 24th, 2021. But that was his last Dynamite match until last month. So when I did some digging, the Internet Wrestling Database has Cabana's career record in AEW at 44-30, which is interesting because the AEW website has him 41-27. But I'm going with IWD here. They had all the detail. I mean, the AEW site is very basic. It just gives you the record. The Internet Wrestling Database actually it has links to all the cards that wrestlers are on. And it's really interesting. I just found the site today. I've just been out there forever. I've read about it, but I've never used it. Now I'm going to use it all the time. It's a great site. I've got a link on our website to this, to Colt Cabana's record, but you can, boy, if you want to dive deep on a particular wrestler or tag team, this is the way to do it. So anyway, so 44-30 career record. That's 74 matches. So 3 pay-per-view matches. Again, one was a multi-man tag. The other 2 were battle royals. 4 non-televised matches. So that's 7. 17 Dynamite matches, 50 YouTube matches. And he hadn't even had a lot of those this year. He's 0-4 this year in AEW. So when you break it down era by era, okay, Cabana was in AEW for 76 weeks before CM Punk made his debut in August of 2021. In those 76 weeks, he wrestled on Dynamite 13 times. Dynamite's where you want to be. That's the big show. It's even more important than the pay-per-views. It's where you get your most exposure. Pay-per-views, get 150,000 buys when it's a good day. Dynamite is around 1 million, right? So that's where you want to be, is Dynamite. 13 times on 76 weeks, a 171 batting average. That's what I called it. The 54 weeks between Punk's arrival and All Out, 3 Dynamite matches, a 056 average. So it's lower, but the first average wasn't very high. The 13 weeks since All Out, 1 match for Cabana on Dynamite and 077 average. So I don't know. Looks like what Shira wrote is the way to sum this up. Tony Khan was the one keeping Colt Cabana off TV, and he's the one doing it now. But of course, that's not the narrative that you've been told. You've been told that it was CM Punk, and Actually, the journalist told us that I should put air quotes up. The journalist told us it was Punk manipulating Khan to do his bidding. But maybe what was really going on here is there were other people behind the scenes manipulating those writers to do their bidding instead. Interesting to think about that. AugustaFreePress.com has the links to lots of things here. And we cover AEW somewhat extensively for a mainstream news site. So if you're an AEW fan, go to AugustaFreePress.com and you can search for things there. Also, if you have any questions, any comments, anything you want me to talk about on YouTube here or write about on the website, email me at chris@AugustaFreePress.com.